there's that one like meme. It's like not my name, quarterback.
Good morning and welcome to Friday Morning Arcade. I am your host, Brady Keith. Joining me is my co-host,
Nick Ryan, and today we will be covering the Marvel vs. Capcom collection, and this is a series of about 4 or 5 games, all spanning across the crossover universe. And within this episode, as you guys know, we will be giving our own takes and interpretations of the game. So, Brady, starting with you, I'm going to kind of switch it around a little bit. What was your favorite game out of the collection?
honestly, I'm not going to lie. I know it's a little cheesy, but I really loved the Punisher game because it was just, you were just like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, just like a shootout in a way of like just, there was random characters and you just had to shoot or punch and just get as many points as you can in a short time. It was always such a nice break when I was getting like mad at like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 online multiplayer. It was just a nice little game to go and play and just like, you know, work out all your anger and frustration. What about you? What was your favorite?
Yeah, I really liked that game too. In my opinion, I think that both Marvel vs. Capcom games were really good, but an underrated one was the X-Men and Street Fighter one.
Oh, yeah, so definitely.
And I think a lot of it has to do with because a lot of these Marvel vs. Capcom games, there's only very few like different types of Street Fighter characters. Like usually it's like Chun-Li and Ryu and maybe Akuma.
Maybe Baraka.
Yeah. And with this game, I feel like they were able to really like flesh out those characters, but also add in a bunch of like other like mainstays throughout the series. I know that technically, like, MVC 1 had Zangief, but even then, like, he wasn't as well known. But yeah, I really, really liked the Punisher game, especially because I've always had a soft spot for, like, Capcom and, like, their beat-em-ups. I mean, like, Beautiful Joe is an awesome game. But yeah, so what... As kind of a whole, let's kind of start on, like, the fighting game parts. Because, like, for most people, that was kind of the mainstay for this collection. So what are your thoughts on the fighting games?
So my thoughts are, it's a fighting game. So obviously you're going to get what you're expecting. You're going to get a list of characters that you can pick from and, like, fight. But then again, I'm playing through these games and I'm getting hooked because the story, they're telling stories in the fights and like the cutscenes. Like you have stages and missions. You're getting story along in your fighting game. That's what I really love about these games. Like any of like, let's bring up Street Fighter or any of these games. They add a story element, so it's not just a bland, basic old fighting game. You have so much more that you can get hooked on and get interested in with these games by them giving you this story option to like play through and like fully like immerse yourself in the game instead of just punch, kick, Hadouken, you know?
Yeah. I like, yeah, to me, like, a big part of, like, the fighting games themselves, like, before, like, I know that Mortal Kombat and Tekken really established like a story mode. Before that, you had an arcade mode that had a beginning and end, and each like character had like their own like cutscenes. And with this game, especially because of first of all the updated graphics, but also due to the fact of just that charm of like the pixel-esque take on fighting games. Which I do kind of think has been lost over time since, you know, like a lot of these like modern Street Fighter games, I know like the Dragon Ball fighting game especially, like a lot of that style has kind of been lost to time. But to me at least, like just the approach to, I mean, those stories are like super well made, and especially since I know it's either the first or second Capcom, they put in like more comic book based like panels and
I
stuff instead of like
think it was
full-fledged
the second.
cutscenes. So yeah, I absolutely loved the story mode. What was your approach to multiplayer?
See, multiplayer is interesting because the original games, from what I remember, the multiplayer was kind of like iffy on if it was gonna work well. But in this game, it was like really good, and I knew I was gonna have like a good experience in just multiplayer co-op or like even online battles. I didn't feel like I was waiting like forever to get into a match. I felt like there was time for them to come in and like I was ready to go, and there was no like waiting or anything, and like I didn't really experience any lag, which is completely rare for me because of the fact I live out in the country and I have terrible Wi-Fi. But still, I didn't really experience any lag. The only time I really experienced like any high latency or anything is if I was facing someone in like the overseas servers and stuff. But other than that, I think that they really did well with their multiplayer this year.
Yeah, like for me, I've been like going back for about a year now and playing a lot of older fighting games. Street Fighter 4 being kind of the big one for me because unfortunately once you hit a certain like year mark, everyone just kind of hops off, like the game kind of dies. And that's where, you know, the joke of Brazilian servers like comes in, because legitimately Brazilian servers are really the only active servers out there, and there's times where those don't even work too. And obviously, for people who don't know, fighting games are based on other types of ways to get like internet access. You don't have a whole lot of professional fighting game players use Wi-Fi, and so because of that, when you do see a Wi-Fi user, it's always kind of a inconsistent battle between whether or not you're going to have an effective match. And you know, obviously I too kind of live out in the country, and you know, a lot of internet access and stuff is very janky where I live as well. And because of that, you know, sometimes it's very hard, even within modern fighting games as well, to where you're able to find good Wi-Fi latency. What was your thoughts on specifically MVC1 and MVC2's roster?
I think these were really good rosters and kind of like stayed true to the original games, if I'm not mistaken. So that was nice because there was that nostalgia of like opening what was it originally on the 64?
Yes, I believe so.
So there was that nostalgia of like Christmas Day, you open up your presents and then you see Marvel vs. Capcom for your N64, and you open up and there's just this list of characters that just allows you to like, ooh, I really like him. He's like so cool. And it like allows you to like relive that in a way, relive all the memories of all these characters that you originally had when you were a kid, and here they are together and just put out beautifully for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of, you know, like this game's popularity comes from like the older generation, you know, because like no matter whether you were playing it on the arcade cabinets, or I know that I think MVC1 was a PS1 port as well. Like a lot of that kind of carries over, obviously, because, you know, obviously, like we're both big like Mortal Kombat fans, and you know, we get very hyped when like MK1, even though I have my thoughts about certain characters, obviously, MK1 has really pulled through on all of the cameos and all of the DLCs. But yeah, I absolutely loved this roster.
While we're on that topic, can we talk about the fact that they brought in Conan the Barbarian for MK1?
Yeah, going off of yeah, I absolutely think that was a perfect idea. Like, Conan obviously kind of has been lost to time. A lot of people, especially our ages, might not know what Conan the Barbarian is, and he was like the original like Doomslayer and like Guts from Berserk. Like he is so cool, and yeah, I think that was such a great idea.
All right, this is going to add on to this whole thing. We're doing MK1 now too because I really enjoyed MK1, and like the story was interesting because of the fact it was like a restart on MK, so the franchise. So like all your characters now have like different new backstories. Like they actually brought in Bihan as Smoke instead of Noob Saibot like he's always been in the game. So I think MK1 has been or like Mortal Kombat has been the lead for fighting games. And I think that's what is like drawing everybody to come back into fighting games was the fact that Mortal Kombat is on this rise again.
Yeah, that's always been like my biggest thing. You know, for a long time, I mained Smoke in MK9, and unfortunately, due to where the story was taken, he turned into a Ninra or whatever, and that kind of sucks. But the fact that they like returned a lot of his moveset from MK9 into MK1 was absolutely perfect. And I think what I like too is the fact that like they're not purely doing like other like pop culture characters. They're also returning a lot of characters. I know that like Floyd is a big one right now. Takeda, which I think he's for a long time, you know, he was my main in MK10, and so the fact that like he's returning in this like new era is perfect. But yeah, I absolutely love MK1.
Yeah, sorry guys, we got off on a little
Yeah.
rant. But thank you for joining us. I am Brady Keith,
And I am Nick Ryan.
and thank you for joining us at the arcade.
And yeah, remember to post your suggestions. We have a form that we will be putting somewhere.
It'll
We
be
don't
in our
know.
description most likely.
All
All
right,
right,
perfect.
signing off. Bye.
See